I would not mind being this spy's target. Our story begins 2 years ago in the less cool Korea. North, of course. Ain't that crazy though? In the south, you got K-pop, and in the north, communism. Anyway, we open up with an intense interrogation scene where our protagonist, Evelyn Salt, is accused of being a spy. She pleads her innocence, but it falls on deaf ears and the intensity escalates further.
I'm not a spy. You are a spy. I'm not a spy.
You are a spy.
I am not a spy.
Yeah, and I'm not the best movie YouTuber. Sometime later, through the grace and generosity of the Norse glorious leader, Salt is released. Waiting outside is her boss, Ted Winter, advising her to chill.
In case Kim Jong-il here changed his mind.
Salt got exchanged for this old guy. Come on, Angelina Jolie is worth more than that. Surprise, Salt is actually an agent for the CIA and was ready to be left to rot. One life for the greater good. But her boyfriend simped really hard for her. He petitioned the Senate and the State Department. We had to do something before he started a Twitter hashtag campaign. That's right, he damn near canceled the CIA. A boring text transition brings us to Washington, present day. The guy from earlier, Michael Krause, or Mike, is proof that simping works. The simp is now her husband, and it's their 1-year anniversary. Time for pancakes, but get those bugs off the table.
They're spiders.
They're hellspawn. Later at work, Salt gets caught watching YouTube videos. Hey, Minute Movies here.
Are you doing this on company time?
Ha, of course she's a fan. Cut her some slack, it's her anniversary. The two walk off together and we learn that Ted has enough authority to attend an Oval Office meeting. And he's also Wolverine's brother, which is kind of based. Before they leave, their attention is called. Sir, a Russian defector walked in, says he's from SFB. That's the modern KGB. Ted insists that Saul joins him. She agrees, and they have this counterintelligence guy named Daryl Peabody to keep them company. We can see they have a very advanced brain-scanning lie detector. With everything set up, Salt enters. The Russian takes notice of her ring and points out how a husband must be a distraction for a female intelligence agent. But let's focus on you, my guy. He is...
Oleg Vasilyevich Orlov.
He has cancer.
I'm moved.
He's a confirmed FSB agent who appeared in Siberia in 1993. But he has no prior records. Russia is also dying, but unlike me, it isn't dead. It was once a strong, powerful country, and she will be again when set on the correct path. Salt wants him to get to the point. Instead, we get a flashback.
1975, the Cold War.
In Grozny, Olympic wrestler Sasha Chenkov marries this chess grandmaster. They have a child together, but after a month, their child gets sick, and within days, it dies. A child was dead, a child was buried, but the Chenkov baby was alive. In the hands of a master spy who plans to destroy America. The plan started when Lee Harvey Oswald emigrated to Russia and was replaced by a Russian spy named Alec. Alec returned to America, and on November 22nd, 1963, he became a hero to the Soviet Union. The master spy was then given permission to create more like Alec. Male and female agents will be substituted for Americans. In an abandoned monastery, Chenkov and other children learned English before Russian, and they were trained in various rigorous physical and psychological programming. The result?
Unquestioning and unbreakable.
Child soldiers. Daddy, chill. Wow, that was a whole lot of exposition crammed down our throats. Salt is getting bored. Same. So, is there a happy ending? None. It's a story without hope. Oleg continues Chenkov's story. A visiting American family gets into an accident. They die, but Chenkov replaces their child and is sent back to America, living a complete lie and waiting for Day X. Today is Day X. Chenkov will travel to New York City to kill the president of Russia, who will attend the US vice president's funeral.
Chenkov is KA-12.
Okay. Peabody explains that it's a legend, that Russian sleeper agents are inserted into US society to sabotage and assassinate, waiting for years, even decades to strike. Ted is also skeptical. It involves killing the Russian president, so he's not buying it. Wrap it up, Ev. I, for one, never wrap it up. Salt shares Ted's thoughts. This KA program is complete BS. She rushes to leave, but the name of the Russian agent is Salt.
Evelyn Salt.
I'm Evelyn Salt. Then you are a Russian spy. It do be like that because it is. So basically, this is Black Widow. Their state-of-the-art lie detector points to everything being truthful, even the Black Widow stuff. Everyone is shook. Salt wants to make sure Mike is safe, but Peabody is highly suspicious. In case you missed it, Ted and Salt works for CIA's Russian external operations. A switcheroo might be possible, so Peabody keeps her close. Mike isn't answering his phone, so Salt panics.
Godspeed, Comrade Chenkov.
You are not helping. Salt of course denies everything. Her only concern now is Mike's safety. Ted tries to keep everyone calm, but Peabody is convinced they have a mole. So Salt is detained. While Ted and Peabody argue, Oleg is escorted off somewhere, but... Shoe knife activate! Not only is he unrestrained, but he's got a shoe knife. What proceeds is easy work. Just the distraction Salt needed, as Ted and the others move to check on things.
I gotta pee.
Okay, I guess that works. Meanwhile, we see that Oleg simply walked out of the building. Also, apparently he used to be quite the big shot. Ted orders for a manhunt while Salt gets caught in 4K trying to run. Unfortunately for her, the building is on lockdown mode and she's easily spotted. She's still trying to reach Mike, but nothing. Tracking her on the other hand proves easy and Salt is slowly cornered. Never mind. Peabody springs into action, ordering for a tactical team. Ted continues monitoring Salt's movements and is growing concerned. He should be, because Salt now has access to chemicals. And with Salt's kinky side coming in handy, I'm just gonna leave this right here, they now have no vision. Peabody pulls up Salt's profile and a long list of skills come up. She's got that maxed out gaming skill tree. We also see her parents' car accident and her marriage to Mike. Peabody's team is on standby as Ted calls her to surrender, but
Call me when you find Mike.
even with her life on the line, she's got her man in mind. God bless. Or perhaps she's just buying time to MacGyver together some kind of explosive. As Peabody's team prepares to rush in. What? How? She successfully makes it out of the building, leaving Ted and the audience shook. Still, he knows Mike is their mutual target. Salt gets into a taxi and desperately calls Mike to no avail, so she breaks her SIM card. She reminisces about the time she got assigned to get close to Mike, a spider scholar with unrestricted access to North Korea's borders.
He's a perfect cover to get us inside.
Salt reaches their apartment, carefully calling out to Mike. Though, their dog emerges in his stead and helpfully points out how he was taken. As the Popo approach, Salt packs up guns, supplies, and a spider, which will surely come in handy. Peabody's team raids the apartment, guns blazing, but it's useless. Salt activated her spider powers and is scaling the side of the building. Peabody gives up as Salt shows us why it's good to be a friendly neighbor. Back at her apartment, Ted is giving her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the Russian was lying, maybe her husband is in danger, maybe she's afraid of being locked up. But Peabody is not a fan of maybes. He wants to make sure she's innocent, and that means we bring her in or we bring her down. Ted defends her, recounting what she did for the country, but his sentiments are coldly discarded. Cut back to Salt, who leaves her dog with the neighbor's kid, who's doing algebra.
I hate math.
Relatable. They really should have kept the alphabet out of math. As she stares into the good boy's eyes and fluffy snout, we're brought back to her first meeting with Mike.
Hi. Nice to see you again.
You talking to me?
Yeah, I've seen you here before.
This guy's acting is atrocious. Hi, nice to see you here again. Then he says what all girls want to hear. I'm a
Spider hunter.
Oh my god. No, actually she says,
You look like one.
this dialogue is so bad. What am I supposed to be feeling right now? Anyway, Salt indulges him and is brought to what I assume is the museum Mike works at. Time to flex. See this spider? I discovered it inside North Korea. Oh, what a coincidence. That's where my secret spy mission is at. In the present, Salt is walking the streets when Ted notices her. Time for a chase scene. Peabody, always at the ready, gets into a car as Salt leads them into the metro station. Harnessing her inner Tom Cruise, Salt runs away with impeccable form, but ultimately gets surrounded. She claims to be innocent, but just like the first scene, no one is convinced. Salt just wants to find her husband, but Peabody is too paranoid to believe her. Feeling overwhelmed, Salt decides to end it all and jumps off the bridge. Oh yeah, that was totally planned. And then Peabody takes a shot. That's totally not legal, but it seems to have just barely grazed her. Now, a car chase ensues. Despite the head start, they catch up to Salt and just start blasting again. Don't these trucks explode when shot, or is that just in video games? Anyway, Salt pulls off another stunt and momentarily gets away. Peabody's convinced that she's a mole. She's a trained goddamn liar and everything she said was to protect her cover. But Ted is still dismissive of his accusations. At this point, Ted, you gotta be asking some questions, man. The driver sees Salt and brakes just in the right place. Heavy traffic. Perfect. And talk about timing. Peabody doesn't have a clear shot and they can't exactly bump the cars out of the way. So Salt once again successfully escapes. Peabody is done playing games.
But we've got to drop a net on New York.
Ted complies and orders that the Russian president's security be notified and alerted of Salt's appearance. Then Peabody receives more info on Salt's childhood. She spent time in Russia and was injured in her parents' car accident. Oleg's story is starting to sound more believable. As they make arrangements for New York, we cut back to Salt, aggressively taking out feminine pads to stop a different kind of bleeding. Then, some girls enter the bathroom and Salt spots a killer deal on a new jacket. Free is free. Salt rides a bus to New York and a radio broadcast informs us of the heightened security for the US Vice President's funeral. Perhaps the most important attendee is Russian President Boris. Then we're dragged back into another flashback. Mike comforting Salt after her release. He begs to be let in on her secret. Just tell me. She's anxious about his safety, but finally reveals that she works for the CIA.
There's no future for us.
I don't want to be safe. I know you. I want to be with you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Good grief. Salt's blank gaze just might indicate regret. Later in New York, she checks in as Miss Hernandez and is an opportunistic shopper as always. Yoink. The coast is clear, so she drops her disguise. Ugh. She makes her own preparations for tomorrow. Guns? Check. Explosives? Check. And spider venom? Check. She even has blueprints printed out. As she looks onto the church, she's reminded of her oath of office.
Duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
And we finish things off with some hair dye. You know shit's about to get real when a girl switches up her hairdo in a movie. The next morning, the funeral is well in order. President Boris is ready to pay respects to his greatest friend in the West, and there's Salt just lurking in the background. Meanwhile, Ted, Peabody, and a bunch of Secret Service and NYPD remain on the lookout. As the vice president's coffin enters the church, we cut to the subway filled with police. Though, Saul keeps them busy with a smoky distraction before leaping off and landing somewhere underground. Back to the funeral, President Boris greets the widow and the US president. The mass proceeds flawlessly with the US president giving his eulogy. Security is tight, but no one is expecting Salt scurrying around underground. Also, you know it's fiction when a US president's speech brings tears to a Russian president's eyes. Back to business.
Lima Zulu 4, clear.
Salt pulls up with punches, parkour, and a little pizzazz while President Boris takes the stand. With 2 guards failing to report in, Peabody ventures down to investigate with backup. Salt makes her move, making short work of the assigned guards and inventing a new genre of music. This shit bussin'. Ted and company react too slowly as the Russian president is left alone with Salt. Hey, mission accomplished. Peabody arrives, but it's too late. The job's been done. Weirdly enough, Salt doesn't shoot him and she surrenders instead. She is taken down and arrested. The authorities fight over custody and it seems NYPD will be taking her. Ted remains stoic until he sees Salt. What? He's quite salty, to say the least. I'm sorry. Shortly after, he finally comes to terms with reality, admitting to Peabody that he's a big dummy head. Peabody agrees, but then notes something peculiar. She had the drop on me, Ted.
Why didn't she shoot?
The police escort is kind of boring, so it's time for a flashback to Salt's childhood, or should I say, Natasha's. Yes, she even has Black Widow's name. Anyway, Natasha underwent an operation to match the American child that was in the car accident. Her fellow mini comrade, Schneider, is awake and bears witness to her transformation.
My name is Evelyn Salt.
Surprise, bitch. The highly trained double agent once again puts together an impromptu getaway plan as she wreaks havoc for the NYPD. Check this out. During the chase, she uses a taser to control the driver's foot. Because science. Having lost her pursuers, Salt, or maybe Natas Salt, I'm sorry. Anyway, she removes her cuffs while the friendly New Yorkers help the cop out of the car, which is the least believable part of this movie. As she calmly leaves the scene, Salt spots another deal. She can't keep getting away with this. Then, she gets on a boat. The quiet ride leads to another childhood memory. Oleg, which is the same guy from the beginning, in case you forgot, can be seen preparing her for the future. Remember your training. Remember, you're not the only one. There are others like you, and we will strike together. I will come for all of you. Kinda sus. A man from the US Embassy approaches her and the rest is history. As passengers disembark, news of Russia's outrage over the assassination of their beloved president spreads. They blame America and even call it a state-sponsored act of terrorism. Russia is on high alert as riots and protests rage on. Okay, I guess their spy plan kinda makes sense now. Oleg watches the news intensely as Saul makes her appearance, rocking that Russian drip I see. Sheesh. Oleg welcomes her with loving arms.
Привет, Comrade Cherko.
I just can't believe it. He lectures her about getting married, but she claims she did it to seem normal. Oleg was impressed by her escape and praises her as his greatest creation.
You trained me well.
Kinky. They go on another boat ride to an old barge. Here they discuss part 2 of his great plan, seizing control of America's atomic weapons, but before that, she's led below deck where her husband is restrained in one of the tanks. Are you ready to watch him go to sleep forever? Salt asks for a gun, but where's the fun in that? Instead, the tank fills with water and her husband takes a rather unpleasant bath, all the while staring into his wife's cold, emotionless eyes. He must be so confused right now. Oleg observes a seemingly unmoved Salt, proudly declaring that she has returned to her family. Time for vodka. Cheers. She matches the faces around her to her childhood memories, every one of them her comrades. Oleg discusses the next phase of his plan. She will meet another agent in NATO uniform. He will be on a plane and the final instructions will come from him. Simple and easy. You won't hear from me again.
My daughter.
You're right about that. Well, I'll be damned. She really did care about her hubby. With Michael gone, violence is the only way. Saul proceeds to wipe out her childhood best friends. Goddamn. As the dust settles, Saul takes one last look at Michael's body. He's just swimming. Salt is waiting in the plane, and look who's here. Schneider. all grown up. It's a joyful reunion. He was sent to Prague and eventually became a NATO liaison for the White House. Salt will accompany him with a different identity. They're heading for the White House to attend a meeting, and Schneider can't help but envy her task, killing the US president. Later, we see Schneider and some dude in his car make it past security. Inside, a metal detector test reveals that Schneider supposedly has shrapnel in his chest. My god, is that Tom Cruise? No, it's Salt in disguise. Switching genders before it was cool. Just a joke, Twitter. Schneider points out that there may be more of their comrades present. This takes Salt by surprise, but we'll get there soon enough. We're back with Ted, briefing the president about Salt and Day X. Then, Schneider gives Salt some words of encouragement. You can do this, Chenkov, but now I must do my job. Schneider goes absolutely sicko mode, but during the commotion, Ted spots Salt and can't mistake those beautiful eyes. Before he can really appreciate the sight of this sexy Tom Cruise, Schneider takes a cue from America's other enemy and... Salt sheds her disguise as the president is escorted to safety. The rest of the security is notified of Salt's presence and the entire White House is on high alert. The president is ready to retaliate for what he deems to be Russia's act of war. Meanwhile, Salt dodges White House security and makes her way down the elevator shaft. She's welcome to my shaft anytime. By the looks of her skills, she must have been bit by a spider monkey or something. No doubt every one of those jumps would take a normal human to Snap City. The security clears the president's path, but Ted is still cautious, and rightly so. She's way too OP as she slips in, inching closer to her target. The president safely makes it to the bunker and immediately starts an emergency meeting. Ted advises that this might very well be the start of Day X. Yeah, no kidding. Satellite reports are coming in that Russia's deploying their missiles, with ground confirmation as well. Captain Holt advises to increase to DEFCON level 2. The president agrees and they are getting closer to nuclear war. A briefcase is brought in with nuclear launch codes at the ready. Suddenly, they finally notice a security breach and loss of security feeds. They're practically blind. They send out some fodder before sealing the entire room. Then, Salt demonstrates that there's levels to this shit with a good old ass whooping. They are simply outclassed. The president goes through multiple security checks and phone calls before taking full control of the nukes. With one last working camera, they attempt to look for the agents they sent out, only to find Salt kicking someone else's butt. Ted and another agent head out, and Ted wants a gun for himself, but only Secret Service is authorized to do so.
Protocol, sir.
And dead is dead.
Well, goddamn. He proceeds to gun everyone down.
I'm a national security advisor!
Not anymore.
Shit. Anyway, the president is shook. Who are you? My name is...
Nikolai Tarkovsky.
Another one of Oleg's agents. If you don't help me, I'm gonna pop you. I'm not gonna... Rip in peace. Salt witnesses the massacre. No way, you're one of the homies. He greets her in Russian, dropping all pretenses. Apparently, Ted was a class ahead, so Salt wouldn't remember him. He's one of Oleg's brightest, and it's time to finish his mission. Ted sets up the targets, and all hell is set to break loose. In an effort to buy time, Salt asks to join him. However, Ted brings up her husband and how he wanted to be the one all up in that Salt. Salt counters with seductive eyes, and that's all it really takes. As he prepares to open up, Ted hears some shocking news. President Boris is alive. His apparent death was caused by temporary paralysis from spider venom. Oh, that's what the spider was for. I had a feeling we lost you in North Korea. Mike's little white knight routine got you falling for him. Ted confesses that it was his idea to take Mike hostage. How is Mike?
Orlov is dead.
Ted is actually happy with the news. Looks like he had a bigger part to play in all of this. Apparently he ordered Oleg to reveal Salt's identity. Originally, Salt was meant to be kept alive, but now she's the fall guy. Ted is the hero. Nope. Ted just chills as he takes the president's hand and...
Identity confirmed.
Meanwhile, Salt proves to be as resourceful as ever, breaking the wall to get into the door's wires. Then... Oleg's top dogs duke it out as outside help is on the way.
Permission to launch. Permission to launch.
Salt gains the upper hand and attempts to cancel the launch, but Ted is just as tenacious. Security reaches the room and Salt pulls the cord. She's down, but...
Launch sequence aborted.
Pulling the cord can stop a launch? Well, I'll be damned. Thankfully, Salt's wearing a vest, but she gets cuffed. Meanwhile, Ted has the audacity to order security to check on the president, but he did. Peabody enters the scene before learning that someone found the other sleeper agents and took care of business.
12 dead, including Orlov.
Who could have done that? That cheeky smile says 1,000 words. As Salt walks past, she locks eyes with Ted. The two top dogs are ready to settle their score. Ted gets choked out, and Salt firmly establishes her status as the alpha. She's escorted to a helicopter where Peabody has 15 minutes before she's in FBI custody. Why'd you kill him? Somebody had to. Understandable. Have a nice day. She reveals the truth about Ted. You expect me to believe that? Yes.
He's dead now, so he can't defend himself.
Can't argue with that. How many more like you are there? None. Like Ted, more than you or I can handle alone. Salt makes a strong case. She could have killed the Russian president, but she didn't, and she didn't kill Peabody even though she could have. No, that's not true. I was in control.
You know better.
Then, Peabody receives a text. Huh. Now convinced, he contemplates letting Salt go, so she can continue her spy hunting. Oh, he's just playing the part. He unlocks her.
Go get him.
As they approach a body of water, he gives her a signal and... The helicopter circles back, but Salt is long gone. As she struggles in the cold, a news report states that the new US president has announced that Salt is dead. We also learn of his recent peacekeeping visit to Russia, which included him placing flowers at the site of the plane crash that killed his parents and sister. That sounds familiar.